Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Hampden. We are here ahead of what game is it, Chris? Rangers against Dynamo Kyiv. Second leg of the third round Champions League qualifier. Big game. We're going to speak through the team as ever and discuss the big talking points ahead of this one. We'll bring the team up without further ado. You'll all have seen it by now, but we'll talk through it nonetheless. Rangers go with Butland and goals, obviously a back four of Tavernier, Suter, Robin Proper and Ridvan Yilmaz. Diomande and Barrie continue in the middle, and Tom Lawrence at number 10. I thought he might be rotated out, Chris, given the number of games that he has played. We'll discuss that in a minute. The big surprise for me is that it's McCausland over Cherney on the right. You've got to again expect that, having played those 55 minutes at the weekend, he's not fully fit. So it is Ross McCausland who plays. Chefty on the left, that was as expected, and Cyril Dessers through the middle. Chris, immediate thoughts on that team, I guess, will probably be similar to a lot of people in the comments, which is that Clement doesn't seem to have a strongest starting 11. He's spoken about that being down to fitness, trying to balance, make a puzzle for every game. And this is a continuation of that, because if you had your strongest starting 11, Cherney would be in there. I think there'd be an argument that Sterling would be in there. But he's sticking with what he's done so far. And maybe like last week, he's not only thinking about the starting 11, but he's thinking about how strong is the team going to be that ends the game as well. I put it to you.
Surprised, I think, as the first reaction to that. Now, we spoke this morning about the manager having to start with his strongest side, about going and having a statement of intent, if you like, and that's not the side that I think a lot of people would have picked. McCausland, I can kind of understand, but not ahead of Cherney. Cherney for me had to start. Tom Lawrence as a surprise. I thought, like you, that midfield three would have had a shake up. We would have seen Diomande move forward a line. We would have seen Dujon Sterling come in, and the side that finished, or the midfield three that finished at the weekend, would be the one that started today. So surprised at how that lines up. You have to say it's a big call from the manager.
Yeah.
If tonight doesn't go well, then the Cherney question will be raised. The Sterling question will be raised. Apart from that, I don't think you can have many complaints. The goalkeeper, obviously, back four after Leon Balogun was all but ruled out at the press conference yesterday. Back four picked itself. Barron and Diomande were always going to play. It was just round about that.
Mm-hmm.
Hefty, I think, was always going to play. A lot of people calling for that. Dessers, obviously, as we discussed on the show this morning, has to play because there's nobody else to fill that number 9 role at present. So some of the team did pick itself, but those big calls, I'm surprised at how they've gone.
The bench: Liam Kelly, Matondo, Cherney, Dowell, Sterling, Wright, Davies, King, Fraser, McKinnon, Rice, and Danilo, who we obviously spoke about a bit on the morning briefing today. Yeah, I mean, I think McCausland had a good first half in Lublin, and I guess the argument from Clement would be it's obviously about fitness. You heard him speak after the game here against Motherwell on Saturday, and you thought, is he just playing his cards close to his chest? I must say I was very surprised to not see Cherney on the pitch. What I will say, though, in his defence, Chris, is we do need to remember he's still trained less than 10 times. He's still only played about 90 minutes overall. And Clement inherited an injury crisis. And if, for example, you put Cherney in tonight and he pulled up with an injury, what would be the first criticism? You've rushed him in too soon. That was the same with Robin Proper last week. But I guess Clement has to hope that the game's still there when he does bring him on, because you'd expect that he does have to come on at some stage. I don't think it's with an eye necessarily to St Johnstone here on Saturday. I'd be surprised if that was the case, given the significance attached to this game. I think he's looked at this game overall and thought, you know what? It's probably going to go the distance, much like last week. Get McCausland to do the running in the first half, and towards the start of the second half, maybe then you allow Cherney to influence a game that's a little bit more open. Is that a fair argument?
It probably feeds into a piece that you actually had on the site last season. You look at, we refer to these guys as subs, but you had that piece that talked about them being finishers, guys that come into a game and impact it in a certain way once the game has unfolded a bit. I think when you look at Cherney, the way that he started on Saturday, also that pass that should have resulted in the goal, the way that he then came in and got his goal. If you get man of the match and you're only on the pitch for 55 minutes, you've clearly done something right. You've clearly made an impression. There was a real clamour for him to start. The manager has decided otherwise. He will feature at some point unless the game is going absolutely perfectly and Rangers are 5-0 up with half an hour ago. Anytime, but actually, we'll just keep Cherney back for Saturday and we'll give him his minutes then. I don't think that's going to be the case. Unfortunately, he will be required at some point. You would back him to come on like he did last week when he was even shorter of fitness, even shorter of sharpness. He came on last week, looked a bit raw, looked a bit off it. In the opening stages after being introduced, but then came up with that moment. Hopefully Rangers don't need him to provide that match changing moment, but hopefully the situation is there for him to get another half hour or so under his belt, and we then get to the weekend. It's like he then has to be starting games going forward. But I say as a surprise, but it's a really big call from the manager.
The only other surprise, I mean, Chefty, I think, had to come in because he was so positive last week away in Lublin. The only other surprise is the midfield. Now, maybe it was slightly optimistic to think it was going to be Barrie, Diomande and Sterling, because Clement had finished the game with that here on Saturday. I thought maybe is that a little bit of him trying to try out.
Almost a warm up for it. Let's go and give it a go and see how it works. Rangers, I don't think second half on Saturday we spoke about it post match.
They weren't great.
Not great. I think is being kind. We spoke about it again on Monday, and I think we still decided on Monday morning that they weren't great either. So it's not a case of that three worked brilliantly and worked really, really well. And say, well, that's
fair point.
But you look at it on paper and you think, if you're going to pick a Rangers midfield, that looks like the strongest, certainly for a game like this. We know how Kyiv will approach it. We know they like to try and get Rangers on in those transition moments, and you just feel that Sterling being in there ahead of Lawrence, not in the Lawrence position, but ahead of Lawrence, that looks a more solid, looks a more accomplished midfield three for me. We speak a lot about players being rotated and managing their minutes. Tom Lawrence has played a lot of football already this season. He has played a lot of football. For a man who, in his Rangers career, overall, has not played a lot of football. That feeds into what we were saying on about the real lack of options at number 10. That's clearly an issue within the squad. There's not an out-and-out replacement for Lawrence at 10. You would be moving Diomande into an area where he's not played that often for Rangers. Yeah. So you're almost shuffling the deck a wee bit to compensate for that. But for me, it should still have been that three. It's not. And again, it's a big call for the manager, putting a lot of faith in Tom Lawrence.
Yeah, he is. But as you say, you make two good points there. One, that Diomande hasn't played much of his football there, and I guess again from the devil's advocate argument would be, okay, maybe you put a midfield three in there that people would want to see, but you're putting in a new midfield in a game that of this magnitude. Tom Lawrence hasn't had a great start to the season. I think it's fair to say he's not really impacted games. We've spoken about that number 10 position maybe being one suited to a player who dominates a big space, can carry up the pitch, and Lawrence obviously has a shot from distance, which maybe feeds into that. But otherwise, I don't think he's a player who thrives in a game that's transitioning end to end. We'll see what happens there tonight. Dessers was always going to start. Danilo on the bench, we've spoken about that as well this morning, the fact that Clement has effectively said he didn't want to put him into a game where the scoreline was still in the balance, words to that effect. Sterling obviously still building up his minutes as well. We only played 20 minutes in the first leg last week and 30 minutes or so here at the weekend. But if you are chasing the game tonight, you've got Cherney to bring on, and you'd expect that Danilo, I mean, he has to be thrown into the equation at some point, but it would be a big equation to be thrown into tonight if you're not going to trust him for the final 10 minutes against Motherwell.
With all respect to Danilo, as much as I would like to see him play and like to see him get back up to full fitness, if Rangers have to throw him on with 10 minutes to go because they're chasing it, then the night has not gone well. Flip side of that, if the night is going well and the tie is won, we're blue sky thinking here. We're being optimistic. If the tie is won early doors, Rangers can then make that change, give Danilo a bit of game time. But importantly, as we touched on this morning, give Cyril Dessers a bit of a rest. It's a big ask, even it's early in the season, and he's obviously come through the pre-season campaign. All the work that the manager's done, he mentioned that a couple of times during the summer about the core fitness that he's looking to try and get into the squad. Dessers, we know, is a fit guy. He's robust, he's reliable, but you still can't ask a guy to play 90 minutes every single week. He will have to be taken out at some point. You would hope that Danilo either gets minutes tonight, certainly gets minutes against St Johnstone, and then that starts to kind of ease that transition. It gives you another option, because it is a really big ask on Cyril Dessers.
Absolutely right. We'll see how it goes. We'll, of course, be live after the game and in the morning to react to whatever the result is here at Hampden. Until then, keep up to date with us on our socials throughout the game. We'll speak to you after. Enjoy the game wherever you're watching it, and bye for now.